Why picks the Clippers, why he chose LA's other team over the Lakers, or simply returning to Toronto. Kawhi not the only star heading home, how Paul George is forcing a historic deal to the City of Angels, and how the Clippers fit together right now. Plus, our SportsCenter featured on the 30th birthday of a Hall of Fame sports movie, why Major League is still a cult classic. Hey everyone, Al Duncan, Tony Collins for the best insider in the NBA, Adrian Wojnarowski, the man who broke the news that Kawhi Leonard's sweepstakes are over. I love what Kawhi did, right? He had the world collectively holding their breath, and then when he finally made a choice, things escalated so incredibly quickly, Woj. So here is the Woj bomb that happened at 1:50 a.m. Eastern Time. Sources telling Adrian Wojnarowski that the Clippers are making a blockbuster trade for OKC Paul George. They're clearing the path for free agent Kawhi Leonard to sign with them. It'll be a 4-year deal worth about $141 million. George, for his part, requested the trade. OKC does receive quite a haul. Here are the trade details. LA gets George, but the Thunder get a haul in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari from the Clippers. They also get 5 first-round picks, 4 of which are unprotected in 2021, 22, 24, and 26, and they also have 2 pick swaps. Wow. Okay, Adrian Wojnarowski, because this is just seemingly so shocking to so many. How did this deal come together?
Well, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard met earlier in the week in Los Angeles. And, Kawhi Leonard essentially told Paul George, I'd like to play with you. Can we get you to the Clippers? Paul George asked for the trade in Oklahoma City, pushed them to work with he and his agent and the Clippers to make this happen. And in the 11th hour last night, with the Clippers fearing that if they didn't deliver that haul that we just described there, that not only would they not get Kawhi Leonard, he'd walk across the corridor with the Lakers and create a big 3 there that would probably send the Clippers to the dark ages. And they anteed up, got Oklahoma City to do the deal, and now they bring their own star power into that building next season to take on LeBron James, Anthony Davis.
Coach, tell us more about what was at stake for that team for the Clippers.
Well, listen, to have a player of Kawhi Leonard's stature, a top 5 NBA player who is interested in playing for you, they were the team that intrigued him the most. The idea of joining a super team with the Lakers, that's not Kawhi Leonard's brand. He liked the idea of doing it with the Clippers, having his own organization, but he wanted to walk in with a player, with talent that could help him win right away. And if you're the Clippers and you miss out on Kawhi Leonard, there may never be another opportunity to be able to get that kind of a player in free agency into your building. And the 2 deals that the Clippers made, Lawrence Frank, Michael Winger, over the last year, getting multiple picks and Tobias Harris for Blake Griffin, and then flipping Tobias Harris to Philly, essentially getting 3 more first-round picks for them, if you include Landry Shamet. All of those assets allowed them to go out and do what they did last night.
And they positioned themselves in a way that's similar to the Nets, right? Who positioned themselves for this particular free agency. It worked out for them. It worked out for the Clippers. It didn't work out so well for the Knicks. Adrian Wojnarowski, there are still some big names out there. He's on top of it. If anyone else signs in this crazy free agent market, Woj is going to have that for us. But again, let's just remind you, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, some of the most efficient players, Tony, right? Yep. With the ball in their hands last season. They ranked 1st and 2nd in points per touch, according to Second Spectrum.
They now join a Clippers team that ranked 10th in offensive efficiency last season.
So we're joined now by Lakers reporter Dave McMenamin, because we've talked about the Clippers and everything that they did so incredibly well, but what the Lakers did was lose out on Kawhi. And how are they reacting to that, Dave?
Well, Al, they were well aware of the boom or bust proposition of this pursuit of Kawhi Leonard. Now, looking back at it, they can look at themselves and say, hey, when you got a shot, or you believe, or if you are led to believe that you have a shot at a guy like Kawhi Leonard, the reigning Finals MVP, you have to go for it. And they feel like it was a worthy gamble. And then also on the alternative, you say, okay, you missed out on all these other guys. Well, they didn't have any assurances that they had a chance of a Kyrie Irving or a Jimmy Butler or a Kemba Walker or any other top-tier guys that were out there. Even a guy like D'Angelo Russell, who at one point was their plan B, ended up being included in the sign and trade and sent from Brooklyn to the Golden State Warriors. So he was taken off the table as well. And so if you're looking at breaking up this cap space into multiple pieces or having a chance at Kawhi Leonard, they feel like they did what they had to do. Obviously, they're disappointed with Kawhi Leonard's decision.
Yeah, no one's going to feel bad for an organization that has to settle on LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But with that being said, Dave McMenamin, how do the Lakers now fill out their roster now that they've freed up that money?
Well, barely before the ink dried on Adrian Wojnarowski's tweet informing the world of what happened last night, you saw Danny Green committing to the Lakers on a 2-year deal. He's a 2-time champion, a career 40+% three-point shooter, a guy who can space the floor, especially when you see LeBron James and Anthony Davis play that pick and roll. You have a release valve on the wing. You saw them in short order bring back 2 of the guys who were on 1-year contracts last year. Albeit it was a disappointing year for the Lakers last year, but JaVale McGee showed some things. It comes back on a 2-year contract. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who obviously has ties to LeBron James, the same agent, and Rich Paul at Clutch Sports, coming back once again. And he's now one of the most longest tenured Lakers alongside Kyle Kuzma. You'll have him back. And now they have the room exception available to them is around $5 million, and they could make a swing at a Marcus Morris or a DeMarcus Cousins. And then beyond that, it's going to be all veteran minimum contracts. And so you expect them to talk to guys like Rajon Rondo, and then perhaps some guys like Kyle Korver gets bought out, J.R. Smith, Carmelo Anthony. We'll see how they fill this thing out.
Boogie Cousins is still kind of out there as well. There's obviously been some ties to him with L.A. as well. All I know is one thing, Dave. It's a great time to be an NBA writer living in L.A.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, very true. Thank you. Joining us for the Lakers' perspective on losing out on Kawhi Leonard. There is Dave McMenamin. Still ahead in minutes, Stephen A. Smith with his reaction to the big deals that went down and which LA team does he think is going to be better next season. We're keeping this conversation going.
All right, before that massive dose of breaking news in the NBA, Zion Williamson and the Pelicans taking on RJ Barrett and the Knicks for their first NBA Summer League games. Before the game, Zion meeting Anthony Davis. New franchise player, former franchise player. All right, and lots of famous faces in the crowd. Floyd Mayweather Jr., LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball. So how did Zion perform in his first NBA action? Here he gets positioned underneath and gets the pass and dunks it. The next Pelicans possession, sets the screen, gets the pass, finishes with a two-handed jam. Later, Kevin Knox grabs the rebound, but Zion, he takes it away from him and does this. Yeah. Adios. Zion showing his strength, and then cherry on top, dunking that baby. And afterwards, of course, you gotta flex. Duh. Now, off an inbounds play, Zion, he hands it off to London Parentis, who gives it back to him for the two-handed jam. He finished with 11 points, 3 rebounds. He did not return in the second half with a left knee bruise. All right, so let's not forget about the number 3 pick, RJ Barrett, his debut with the Knicks. Here's what he did. He used the screen, pulls up for a 3. Now, later in the first quarter, Mitchell Robinson fighting a Cuddy Barrett for the layup and the foul, but it was not all good for Barrett on Friday. He gets the pass here, doesn't make that 3. Then later in the third quarter in transition, Barrett getting the pass in the corner.
It happened overnight. Clippers making a blockbuster trade for Paul George, which will clear the path for Kawhi Leonard to join the Clippers on a 4-year, $141 million contract. League sources tell our Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, George reportedly requested the trade earlier this week. OKC gets 4 unprotected draft picks, a protected draft pick, and 2 pick swaps, Tony.
Royce Young is our Thunder reporter and joins us this morning. Royce, Paul George is gone. How shocking was this trade request?
Tony, there's really no great way to describe how surprising it was when Sam Presti got the call that Paul George would be requesting a trade. It caught everybody off guard because if we just rewind to a year ago, Paul George and Russell Westbrook were standing on a stage in Oklahoma City with cigars and champagne in their hands, and Paul George had a microphone and said, "I'm here to stay." And now we fast forward to this point, and Paul George has been traded, and it's really thrown the whole conversation about the future of the organization in question at this point. But the Thunder expected to have Paul George for the duration of his contract. They had him guaranteed for 2 more years, and now they are without him and in the place where they thought they might be. But if all is not lost for them, because by getting George to re-sign, they did get that haul of assets that we just talked about there, when otherwise, if he would have left him in free agency a year ago, they would have had none of it.
But Royce, reality is that for the second time in 3 seasons, Russell Westbrook has to deal with losing a superstar teammate. What does this mean now for Westbrook and the Thunder?
Well, and they're right back, Tony, to considering trading Russell Westbrook, because that's where they were when Kevin Durant left in 2016. At that time, they negotiated a new contract with Russell Westbrook, and he decided to stay in Oklahoma City. This is a different situation than it was in 2016. Russell Westbrook is now 31 years old. He's older. And the Thunder are now looking at a more asset-driven rebuild than they were back then when Kevin Durant left. So it's given the franchise a much different perspective on how they're going to approach this. Now, obviously, a lot of this is going to be about the offers that they receive, but there's no question about it. Russell Westbrook is available for trade at this point. It's just a matter of if the Thunder get the appropriate offer that's going to encourage them to make that sort of deal. But they have their option to keep him and build this team around who they have right now: Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams, Russell Westbrook. They could trade some of the current players they have to try to reboost the roster and maybe make it competitive again, or they pull the plug and for the first time in Oklahoma City embark on a rebuild.
Yep, no doubt about that. Oklahoma once again in a rebuild. Royce Young with the very latest. Thank you so much, Royce.
Tony, Los Angeles might be the city of angels, but also the city of stars. I mean, I just want you to listen for a second to the names I'm about to rattle off. Of course, now you've got Kawhi and Paul George teaming up. They'll be sharing their new digs because they're